Daddy, why is there another lady here who says she's married to you too? 10-year-old Emma asked my husband Raymond at his anniversary celebration. Her innocent voice carrying across Romano's restaurant, where 50 guests had gathered to celebrate his 12th wedding anniversary, with a woman I'd never seen before. My chest constricted like someone had driven a stake through my heart. The same hands that had closed thousands of real estate deals for 30 years began trembling so violently I nearly dropped the anniversary gift I'd spent weeks selecting. Around me, the restaurant buzzed with celebration. Extended family, neighbors, children's friends, all gathered to honor a marriage that made my own 35-year marriage a criminal lie. Raymond's face went white as he stared at his daughter, realizing that 50 guests had just heard his 10-year-old expose his 12-year bigamy. The woman beside him, his apparent second wife, looked confused, glancing between Raymond and me with growing understanding. "Emma, sweetheart, this lady is she's Daddy's business partner," Raymond said quickly, his voice pitched too high with panic. Business partner. 30 years of building a successful real estate career. And to Raymond's second family, I was just a business associate, not the wife who'd been funding their luxury lifestyle with my commissions. My name is Lucille Henderson. I'm 63 years old, and this is the story of how I discovered my husband Raymond had been systematically deceiving me while I funded his lies. They thought my dedication to our marriage made me blind, that my professional success made me an easy target, that my love for family made me naive. But what they didn't know was that the same real estate expertise that had built my million-dollar career was about to expose their coordinated betrayal and help me reclaim my independence in ways they never saw coming. If this situation resonates with your soul, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. "Excuse me, are you Raymond's business partner?" The woman, Raymond's apparent second wife, asked, approaching me with a friendly smile. "He's mentioned you so many times, Lucy, right? The real estate lady who helps with his investments?" The real estate lady. 30 years of building a successful career, and to Raymond's second family, I was just the real estate lady who helps with investments, not his wife of 35 years, not the woman who'd funded his lifestyle, just a business associate. "I'm Raymond's wife," I said, my voice barely audible over the sudden ringing in my ears. The woman's face went pale. "His wife? But I'm his wife. We've been married for 12 years. These are our daughters, Emma and Grace." "But it gets worse." "Hazel, what's wrong?" Raymond asked, approaching us with the confident smile of a man who'd been managing a double life so successfully that he'd never imagined both worlds colliding in the same restaurant. "Raymond, this woman says she's your wife," Hazel said, her voice rising with confusion and growing panic. I watched my husband's face cycle through emotions, shock, fear, calculation, before settling on the patronizing expression he'd perfected over decades of marriage. "Lucy, sweetheart, you're confused," Raymond said, his voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "This is Hazel, my business partner. We're celebrating a successful real estate deal." Business partner. He was calling his second wife his business partner, while calling me confused in front of 50 witnesses to his bigamous marriage. "Raymond, these children called you Daddy," I said, my voice stronger now, fueled by 30 years of professional training in recognizing lies and fraud. They're Hazel's daughters. They call me that because I've been helping support them. Supporting them with my money, with the commissions I'd earned selling luxury properties while he told me we couldn't afford children of our own. $850,000, I whispered, the number hitting me like a physical blow. That's what I'd earned in real estate commissions over the past 12 years, the exact period of Raymond's second marriage. Money I'd thought was going toward our retirement, our future, our shared life together. Money that had apparently been funding his second wife's stay-at-home lifestyle and his twin daughter's private school education. "What are you talking about, Lucy?" Raymond asked, but his voice lacked conviction. "My real estate commissions, the money you said you were investing for our future. The money that's apparently been paying for your other family's lifestyle while you told me we couldn't afford children." The restaurant had gone quiet around us. 50 guests at Raymond's anniversary celebration, watching a marriage implode in real time, while another woman discovered her entire life was built on systematic lies. "Mommy, why is the lady upset?" one of the twins asked Hazel, her innocent voice cutting through the tension. "I don't know, sweetheart," Hazel replied, but she was staring at Raymond with growing understanding. "Raymond, what is she talking about?" "She's confused," Raymond repeated. But even as he spoke, I could see both families beginning to understand the scope of what they were witnessing. "I'm not confused, Raymond. I'm a real estate professional who spent 30 years documenting financial transactions and property ownership. And I'm starting to understand exactly how you've been using my career success to fund your double life." The man who'd spent 12 years maintaining 2 families looked like someone whose perfect deception had just been exposed by the woman whose professional expertise he'd underestimated for decades. They'd made one crucial mistake. They'd assumed that love and trust would override 30 years of professional training in recognizing fraud, asset manipulation, and systematic deception. The next morning, I sat in my home office surrounded by 12 years of financial records, property documents, and bank statements that were revealing themselves as evidence of systematic bigamy and asset theft. The same methodical approach I'd used to track real estate transactions was now exposing the conspiracy that had stolen my career earnings and my understanding of marriage. Every business trip, every time Raymond had claimed he was networking with investors 3 days a week, every mysterious expense that didn't match our lifestyle. He'd been living a complete double life, maintaining 2 households while I unknowingly funded his second family's luxury lifestyle. I pulled out my commission records from the past 12 years, meticulous documentation I'd kept for tax purposes. The pattern was devastating. Every major sale I'd closed, every significant commission I'd earned, had been followed by mysterious transfers from our joint account to accounts I'd never seen. But it gets worse. I found my property transaction files and cross-referenced them with our bank statements. March 2019, I closed a $2.3 million luxury home sale, earning $69,000 in commission. March 2019, Raymond transferred $15,000 to an account labeled investment fund that I now realized was funding his daughter's private school tuition. June 2021, I sold a commercial property for $1.8 million, earning $54,000. June 2021, Raymond transferred $12,000 for what he claimed was retirement planning, but was actually Hazel's monthly household allowance. They'd been timing his asset theft around my professional successes, using my real estate career as their personal ATM. My phone rang, interrupting my investigation. "Lucy, it's Raymond. We need to talk about last night. You misunderstood what you saw." Misunderstood. The word he'd been using for 12 years to explain away every financial discrepancy I'd questioned. "I misunderstood your 10-year-old daughter calling you daddy. I misunderstood your wife of 12 years introducing herself as your business partner. Hazel isn't my wife, Lucy. She's supporting them as a friend. With my money, while denying me the children I'd wanted for 35 years. Raymond, I've been reviewing our financial records. You've transferred over $800,000 from our joint accounts over the past 12 years. Money I earned through real estate sales." Silence. Then, "Lucy, you're getting paranoid. Those were legitimate investments." "Investments in what? Your other family's lifestyle?" After I hung up, I called my former colleague Janet, who'd worked with me at the real estate agency for 15 years. "Janet, I need to ask you something confidential. Over the past 12 years, when Raymond would pick up my commission checks, did he ever mention having children?" "Oh, honey." Janet's voice was heavy with sympathy. "How long have you known?" My stomach dropped. "Known what?" "About Raymond's other family. About the twins." "Lucy, he's brought them to the office Christmas parties for years. He always said you were too busy with clients to attend family events. Too busy with clients." While I was working to build our financial future, Raymond was using my absence to parade his secret family at my own workplace. "How long has everyone known?" "Honey, we all thought you knew and were choosing to handle it privately. The girls look exactly like Raymond, and Hazel always talked about their complicated family situation. Everyone knew, my own colleagues, my professional network, my workplace, They'd all been watching Raymond live his double life while feeling sorry for my apparent acceptance of systematic betrayal. But it gets worse. I drove to the county courthouse that afternoon, using my real estate license to access property records. What I found made my hands shake with rage. Raymond had been listed as married to Hazel Morrison on property documents dating back 12 years. He'd purchased a house for his second family using money from our joint account, money I'd earned, while legally claiming to be married to both of us simultaneously. Criminal bigamy. Not just an affair, not just financial fraud, but systematic identity theft and marriage fraud spanning over a decade. The courthouse clerk, Mrs. Patterson, recognized me immediately. "Mrs. Henderson, how lovely to see you. Are you researching properties for a client?" "Actually, I'm researching my husband's property ownership. Can you show me all properties listed under Raymond Henderson's name?" "Of course." Mrs. Patterson pulled up the records. "Looks like he owns your family home on Maple Street. And oh my, there's another property on Oak Avenue, listed as primary residence for Raymond and Hazel Henderson." Primary residence for Raymond and Hazel Henderson. He'd been legally claiming 2 primary residences with 2 different wives, using my real estate earnings to fund both households. Mrs. Patterson. According to these records, when was Raymond married to Hazel Henderson? Let me check the marriage certificates. Here it is. Raymond Henderson married Hazel Morrison on June 15th, 2012. 12 years ago, when Raymond and I had already been married for 23 years. He'd committed bigamy while I was building my real estate career to support what I thought was our shared future. As I drove home with copies of marriage certificates, property deeds, and financial records, I realized the full scope of their betrayal. This wasn't just an affair that had produced children. This was systematic identity fraud, marriage fraud, and asset theft that had stolen 12 years of my life and $800,000 of my career earnings. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd assumed that love and trust would override 30 years of professional training in property law, asset investigation, and financial documentation. The woman who'd spent 3 decades helping clients protect their real estate investments had been systematically robbed by the man who was supposed to protect her interests. But the same skills that had made me successful in real estate were about to be applied to the most important case of my career, prosecuting my own husband for systematic marriage fraud. The investigation was about to become a criminal case. That evening, I sat in my home office with 12 years of property records spread across my desk, like evidence in a criminal investigation. But what I discovered next made the bigamy and asset theft look like just the beginning of a much deeper conspiracy. I opened my laptop and began what I'd done countless times as a real estate agent, building a comprehensive timeline of property transactions and financial movements. But instead of helping clients protect their investments, I was documenting how my own husband had systematically stolen my life's work. March 2012, Raymond suggests I focus on higher-end properties to increase our income. June 2012, Raymond marries Hazel Morrison while married to me, bigamy begins. September 2012, I close my first $1 million sale. Raymond immediately transfers funds to investment account. 2013-2024, every major commission I earn is systematically transferred to fund second household. Every career milestone I'd celebrated, every professional success I'd achieved, had been orchestrated to maximize the money Raymond could steal to fund his bigamous marriage. But it gets worse. I pulled up Raymond's hidden email account. The password was the same one he'd used for our joint banking for 30 years. What I found made my blood run cold. Hazel, Lucy closed another big sale today. Raymond had written 6 months ago. $2.4 million property. Her commission should cover Emma and Grace's summer camp, plus your spa weekend. She's so focused on building her legacy that she doesn't question where the money goes. Building my legacy. While I thought I was creating financial security for our retirement, Raymond was using my professional dedication to fund his secret family's luxury lifestyle. She keeps talking about wanting to slow down and maybe start a family, Hazel had replied. You need to keep her focused on work. We can't afford for her to get suspicious or reduce her income. Keep her focused on work. they'd been strategically manipulating my career ambitions to maximize their theft, encouraging my professional success while denying me the family I'd wanted for decades. But the email that made me physically sick was from just 3 months ago. The twins are asking why they can't meet Lucy, Hazel had written. They see her picture in your wallet and wonder why Daddy's business partner never comes to family events. Tell them she's too busy with work to have a real family. Raymond had replied. It's better if they think she chose career over children. Makes our family feel more special. Too busy with work to have a real family. Raymond had been teaching his daughters to pity me for choosing career over motherhood, while he was the one who denied me children and stolen my career earnings to raise his secret family. I sat back in my chair, staring at the computer screen, and felt something shift inside me that had nothing to do with hurt or betrayal. It was the same analytical clarity I'd used to solve complex property disputes for 3 decades. This wasn't just bigamy that had produced a secret family. This was a systematic long-term con game designed to extract every dollar I could earn while destroying my dreams of motherhood and using my professional success as a weapon against my personal happiness. I picked up my phone and called my attorney, Margaret Chen, who'd handled my real estate business incorporation. Margaret, I need to discuss criminal bigamy, systematic asset theft, and marriage fraud. Lucy, what's happened? My husband has been legally married to another woman for 12 years while married to me. They have twin daughters together, and he's systematically stolen $800,000 of my real estate commissions to fund their household while denying me the children I wanted. The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped. Lucy, are you saying he's committed criminal bigamy while systematically defrauding you? I'm saying he's been using my professional success to fund a complete double life, while manipulating me into believing I was too career-focused to deserve a family. How much evidence do you have? I looked at my desk, covered with property records, marriage certificates, and 12 years of email correspondence detailing their conspiracy. Enough to send him to prison for decades. But as I hung up the phone, I realized the legal case was only part of what needed to happen. Hazel and the twins needed to know that their entire life was built on stolen money. The real estate community that had watched Raymond benefit from my success needed to understand his systematic theft. The colleagues who'd pitied my choice of career over family needed to see exactly what had been done to me. More importantly, I needed to understand something about myself. How had a woman who'd spent 30 years protecting clients' property interests, investigating asset ownership, and managing complex financial transactions become the victim of such elaborate real estate and marriage fraud? The answer was uncomfortable but clear. They'd weaponized my greatest strengths against me. My professional dedication had made me an ideal income source. My desire for family had made me vulnerable to manipulation about being too career-focused. My trust in marriage had blinded me to systematic bigamy. But they'd also underestimated my greatest assets. The same instincts that had made me a successful real estate agent, property investigation, asset tracking, legal documentation, were now fully engaged on my own behalf. For 12 years, I'd been the unknowing victim of a systematic marriage and financial fraud, but the game was about to change, because the mark had finally figured out the con. And unlike Raymond and Hazel, I actually understood the difference between legitimate property investment and criminal asset theft. The real estate expert was about to conduct the most important property investigation of her career, one that would expose systematic bigamy and recover every stolen dollar. The next morning, I did what I'd done for 30 years as a real estate agent. I built a comprehensive legal strategy based on irrefutable documentation, but instead of helping clients secure property investments, I was gathering evidence to prosecute the systematic bigamy and asset theft that had stolen 12 years of my life and $800,000 of my career earnings. My dining room became a forensic command center. Property records organized by date, marriage certificates sorted by jurisdiction, financial records showing systematic asset transfers. The same methodical approach that had made me a top real estate agent was now focused on delivering justice for criminal marriage fraud. But I had advantages Raymond and Hazel didn't know about. Margaret, it's Lucy. I need to discuss something critical before we proceed with the criminal case. Of course, what is it? I have property investments Raymond doesn't know about. Over the past 15 years, I've been purchasing rental properties under my maiden name through a separate business entity. $1.2 million in real estate assets that he can't access or claim. The silence told me Margaret understood the implications immediately. Lucy, that changes everything. You have independent assets they can't steal, plus a business infrastructure they can't destroy. Independent assets. For the first time in 12 years of systematic theft, I had financial power that Raymond couldn't touch, couldn't redirect to his secret family, couldn't use to fund his bigamous lifestyle. There's more, Margaret. I've been documenting everything for 12 years without realizing it. Every property transaction, every commission payment, every financial transfer. I have a complete evidence trail of their systematic asset theft and marriage fraud. So you have proof of the criminal bigamy? I have marriage certificates, property deeds, financial records, and email confessions spanning 12 years. This isn't just bigamy, it's systematic conspiracy with documented intent and financial fraud. But it gets worse for them. I called Detective Morrison, who'd handled white-collar crimes in our county for years. Detective, this is Lucy Henderson. I need to report systematic bigamy, asset theft, and marriage fraud spanning 12 years. Mrs. Henderson, I remember you from real estate closings. What's the situation? My husband has been legally married to another woman for 12 years while married to me. They have twin daughters together, and he's systematically stolen $800,000 of my real estate commissions to fund their household while committing criminal bigamy. Jesus, Lucy, how much evidence do you have? Complete property records, dual marriage certificates, financial documentation of systematic asset theft, and email correspondence between the conspirators detailing their fraud and my manipulation. Can you come in this afternoon? Bring everything. That afternoon, I drove to my real estate office. The business Raymond thought he understood, but had never actually controlled. What he didn't know was that I'd been maintaining this office and its resources throughout his systematic theft. Mrs. Henderson, it's wonderful to see you. My former assistant Linda said, how are you handling everything? Raymond mentioned you'd been having some personal difficulties. Personal difficulties. Raymond had been preparing the narrative for when his bigamy was exposed, positioning me as someone having personal problems rather than someone who'd discovered systematic criminal fraud. I'm handling it very well, Linda. Better than Raymond expects, I replied, settling into my office chair. I need you to help me with a very important property investigation. Of course. What kind of investigation? Criminal asset tracking. I need to document every property transaction, every financial transfer, every piece of evidence showing systematic theft of my real estate earnings. Linda's face went serious. Mrs. Henderson, are you saying someone has been stealing from your business? I'm saying my husband has been using my real estate success to fund a 12-year bigamous marriage while systematically defrauding me of my career earnings. But my most powerful weapon wasn't just evidence, it was my professional network. I called my former broker, Robert Martinez, who'd worked with me for 20 years. Robert, I need expert testimony for a criminal bigamy and asset theft case. Lucy, what's happened? I've been the victim of systematic marriage fraud and financial exploitation. I need professional validation that my real estate expertise hasn't declined and that the asset theft I've discovered represents criminal fraud. You have it, Lucy. You're one of the most competent real estate professionals I've ever worked with. Anyone who questions your business judgment is either ignorant or lying. I called the county assessor, Patricia Wong, who'd processed my property transactions for decades. Patricia, I need verification of property ownership and marriage fraud documentation. Lucy, I've been wondering when you'd figure this out. The dual property ownership under different marriage certificates has been concerning our office for years. They'd been wondering when I'd figure it out. Even county officials had noticed the systematic property fraud that Raymond thought he was hiding so well. That evening, I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where Raymond had been planning his double life for 12 years, and felt something I hadn't experienced in over a decade. Complete control over my own financial future and legal standing. Raymond came home at his usual time, carrying the same briefcase he'd used to maintain his bigamous lifestyle. "How was your day, sweetheart?" he asked, but his voice lacked the confident condescension he'd been using for years. "Very productive," I replied, looking up from the criminal evidence files I was organizing. I met with Detective Morrison about bigamy charges, consulted with property attorneys about asset recovery, and secured expert testimony from my professional colleagues. Raymond's face went ashen. Bigamy charges, criminal marriage fraud, systematic asset theft, and conspiracy to defraud. Detective Morrison was very interested in the marriage certificates, property records, and your email confessions with Hazel. For the first time in 35 years of marriage, Raymond looked genuinely terrified. The confident man who'd been orchestrating his double life looked like a criminal whose perfect fraud had been exposed by his intended victim. "Lucy, we can work this out. We are working it out through the criminal justice system. Tomorrow morning, you and Hazel will be arrested for conspiracy to commit bigamy and systematic asset theft." The real estate expert had become the prosecutor, and the evidence was overwhelming. Sunday family dinner at my house arrived with the same gathering that had facilitated 12 years of systematic bigamy and asset theft. But this time, the conspirators didn't know they were walking into a confrontation orchestrated by someone who'd spent 30 years building legal cases that protected property rights and exposed fraud. "Lucy, you seem different today," Raymond said as he walked into my dining room, where I'd set the table for what would be our last meal together. "More? I'm feeling very clear today, Raymond," I replied, placing my leather briefcase on the head of the table with the same authority I'd once used in real estate closings. "Clearer than I've been in 12 years. Hazel entered with the twins, as they always did when Raymond brought his other family for what he'd told them were business dinners with his investment partner. Around the table sat the same extended family members who'd watched Raymond live his double life: his brother, his parents, family friends, who'd known about the bigamy but stayed silent about the systematic fraud. "Before we eat," I announced, my voice carrying the professional authority that had commanded respect for 3 decades, "I have something important to share with everyone." Hazel started to interrupt. "Lucy, maybe the children shouldn't—" "Sit down, Hazel." The command in my voice stopped her mid-sentence. "Everyone needs to hear this, especially Emma and Grace." I opened my briefcase and pulled out the organized evidence files, spreading them across the table like I'd done countless times when presenting property documentation to clients. For the past 12 years, Raymond has been legally married to both Hazel and me simultaneously, systematically stealing my real estate commissions to fund his bigamous marriage while denying me the children I wanted for 35 years. The room fell silent, but this time, the silence belonged to me. "These are marriage certificates showing Raymond married Hazel in 2012 while already married to me since 1989. I held up the legal documents. "These are property records showing Raymond purchased a house for his second family using money stolen from our joint accounts. And these are bank records showing $800,000 in systematic asset theft over 12 years. The family members who'd enabled the deception were now staring at Raymond and Hazel with growing horror. "But it gets worse," I continued, pulling out the email printouts. "Here's Raymond writing to Hazel. Lucy's so focused on building her legacy that she doesn't question where the money goes." And Hazel's response, "Keep her focused on work. We can't afford for her to reduce her income." Emma and Grace, the 10-year-old twins, looked confused as they began to understand that their entire family structure was built on criminal fraud. "Girls," I said, turning to address them directly, "your father has been stealing money from me to pay for your house, your school, your clothes, and your food. Every dollar your family has lived on for 12 years was stolen from my real estate career." The shock on their faces was heartbreaking, but they needed to understand the truth about their father's crimes. Detective Morrison has reviewed all evidence. Criminal charges were filed this morning for bigamy, systematic asset theft, and conspiracy to commit marriage fraud. I looked directly at Raymond and Hazel. The arrest warrants are being executed after dinner. But the most devastating moment came when I addressed Raymond's extended family. "For 12 years, you all watched Raymond live this double life. You attended family gatherings where he brought his second wife and children while I worked to fund their lifestyle. You accepted his narrative that I was too career-focused to want a family, while he was denying me children and stealing my earnings to raise his secret daughters. The shame on their faces was palpable, but I wasn't finished delivering accountability. Raymond told his daughters that I chose career over family, that I was too busy with work to have a real family. The truth is that Raymond stole my career earnings to fund his bigamous marriage, while manipulating me into believing I was too selfish to deserve children. Raymond finally found his voice, but it came out as a broken whisper. "Lucy, we can work this out privately." "Privately?" I stood up, my full professional authority on display. "You've been publicly living a double life for 12 years. You used my real estate success to fund your bigamous marriage while humiliating me in front of my own colleagues. You taught your daughters to pity me for choosing career over family while you were the one stealing my earnings and denying me motherhood." But the most powerful moment came when Detective Morrison arrived exactly on schedule, accompanied by 2 uniformed officers. "Lucy, are these the suspects?" Detective Morrison asked, looking at Raymond and Hazel with the professional disgust reserved for people who commit systematic marriage fraud. "Raymond Henderson and Hazel Morrison," I confirmed. 12 years of criminal bigamy with complete documentation and expert testimony. As the handcuffs clicked into place, Raymond looked at me with something I hadn't seen in decades, genuine recognition of exactly who he'd been stealing from. "You have the right to remain silent," Detective Morrison began, but Raymond was staring at me with the dawning realization that he'd tried to defraud someone who'd spent her entire career understanding property law, asset protection, and legal documentation. "Mommy, why are the police taking Daddy?" Emma asked, tears streaming down her face. "Because Daddy committed crimes, sweetheart," Hazel replied, her voice breaking as she realized her entire lifestyle was built on stolen money. The family dinner that had facilitated 12 years of systematic bigamy had just become the setting for complete justice. They'd underestimated exactly who they were stealing from. The real estate expert who'd spent 30 years protecting clients' property rights had just applied those same skills to prosecuting systematic marriage fraud and asset theft. Raymond and Hazel had tried to use my professional success to fund their criminal conspiracy while destroying my dreams of family. Instead, they'd awakened the legal expertise of someone who'd made a career of exposing fraud and protecting property rights. The case was closed, and the verdict was decades in prison. 14 months later, I stood in my renovated real estate office where I'd first gathered evidence against Raymond's bigamy conspiracy. But everything had changed. The woman who'd once apologized for questioning financial discrepancies was gone, replaced by someone who'd reclaimed not just her assets, but her entire sense of purpose and family. The legal proceedings had been swift and comprehensive. Raymond pled guilty to criminal bigamy and received 15 years in prison plus full restitution. Hazel faced charges for conspiracy and was ordered to repay every stolen dollar with interest. But more importantly, the entire real estate community now understood exactly what had been done to Lucy Henderson. "Mrs. Henderson? It's Detective Morrison," came the familiar voice on my phone. "I wanted to let you know the final restitution payment came through. $800,000 in stolen commissions, plus $400,000 in damages and legal fees. Your case is officially closed. $1.2 million, not just recovery, but justice with compound interest for systematic marriage fraud and asset theft." "Detective, this case has become the model for bigamy prosecution nationwide, hasn't it?" "Ma'am, in 20 years of criminal investigation, I've never seen a victim build such a systematic case against marriage fraud. The FBI is using your documentation methods to train investigators in property-related bigamy cases." After I hung up, I sat at my desk, the same desk where I'd organized evidence that saved my life and career. But now it held something different: correspondence from the National Association of Realtors, requesting my consultation on developing protocols for detecting real estate fraud involving family members. The doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Emma and Grace, now 11 years old, holding hands with their court-appointed guardian. These monthly visits had become precious to all of us. a chance to build honest relationships while the girls adjusted to their new reality. "Aunt Lucy," Emma called, running into my arms with genuine affection. "We brought you something." Aunt Lucy, the relationship we'd established after the truth came out. Not the business partner Raymond had taught them to see me as, but their father's first wife, who'd unknowingly funded their childhood and deserved their respect and love. "How are you both doing?" I asked their guardian, Mrs. Chen, who'd become a trusted friend through this process. "Better every month," Mrs. Chen said, settling into my living room. "The girls are thriving in their new school, and they're starting to understand that loving their father doesn't mean accepting his crimes." The girls had been placed with Mrs. Chen after Hazel's conviction, and I'd established a trust fund for their education using part of the restitution money that would actually go to their future, not to funding anyone's criminal lifestyle. "Aunt Lucy, we wrote you letters," Grace said, pulling out carefully folded papers. "We wanted to say thank you for still caring about us even though Daddy stole from you." I read their letters with tears in my eyes, innocent children expressing gratitude for the love and financial support I'd unknowingly provided, while apologizing for their parents' crimes they'd been too young to understand. "Girls, you are not responsible for what your parents did. You are my family, and I will always care about you." The transformation wasn't just legal, it was deeply personal. The woman who'd once believed she was too career-focused for family now had the honest family relationships she'd always wanted. My former colleague Janet stopped by later that week. "Lucy, the Real Estate Fraud Prevention Institute wants you to head their new family exploitation division. Your case has changed how the entire industry approaches asset protection from family members." "Tell them yes," I said without hesitation. "If my experience can help other professionals recognize when their success is being used against them, then something meaningful will come from those 12 years of systematic theft." The ripple effects continued expanding. The National Association of Realtors established the Lucy Henderson Protocol for detecting property fraud involving bigamy. 3 law schools requested permission to use my case in their family law and property rights curricula. The FBI invited me to train investigators on documentation techniques for marriage fraud cases. But the most meaningful transformation was internal. The voice that had been systematically silenced through financial manipulation was now stronger than ever. "If this story resonates with you," I said into my phone, recording a message for the Real Estate Fraud Prevention Program, "remember this: your professional expertise doesn't disappear when someone you love betrays you. Your ability to investigate property ownership and track assets doesn't diminish when family members steal from you. Your right to honest relationships doesn't expire when you become successful." I paused, thinking about the woman I'd been 14 months ago, questioning whether she was too career-focused while unknowingly funding her husband's bigamous marriage. I spent 30 years helping clients protect their real estate investments and property rights. I had to learn to apply those same protective skills to myself when my own husband became the threat. The people who truly love you don't steal your success to fund competing relationships. They don't use your professional achievements as weapons against your personal happiness. Real family celebrates your success and includes you in truth, not conspiracy. The recording would be used in training sessions nationwide, helping other professionals recognize when their career success was being exploited by family members. As I hung up the phone, I realized the most profound change wasn't in my circumstances, it was in my voice. The woman who'd whispered questions about missing money now spoke with the authority of someone who'd fought systematic marriage fraud and won. Raymond had tried to steal my career earnings, my dreams of family, and my sense of self-worth through 12 years of bigamy. He'd succeeded in stealing my money for over a decade, but he'd never touched what mattered most: the real estate expertise and legal knowledge that had defined my career. In the end, those skills hadn't just exposed his crimes, they'd transformed me into someone who could protect others from the same systematic exploitation, while building the honest family relationships I'd always deserved. Emma and Grace ran back into the room, carrying books they wanted me to read to them. As I settled them on either side of me, I realized this was what real family looked like. Honest relationships built on truth, not criminal conspiracies designed to steal success. Some people underestimate real estate professionals at their own peril. We've spent decades learning exactly how to investigate property ownership, track assets, and expose fraud, even when the criminals are sleeping in our own beds.